Hello. Just waiting for a few more people to drop in. I swear to God, it's a stoner cough. Nothing more. Hello, welcome to the Daily Faded. I am the Hetz, and I'm glad you're here with me tonight. We are socially distanced and safer at home in Los Angeles and in California tonight. So I just want to express my solidarity with everyone out there going through this crazy situation that we're in right now. My gratitude to my viewers and Patreon patrons who are the reason I'm doing this. Not for the patrons, but for the viewers. And solidarity, community, well-being, and gratitude. That's what I want to try to express here at the beginning. Before we get all serious and stuff, social distancing, hashtag social distancing pickup lines was trending on Twitter today. At Robin the Black tweeted, "Will you be my quarantine?" At N and 076 tweeted, "You smell so good. Is that Purell you're wearing?" At Jillian Hicks tweeted, "If I had $1 for every time I thought about you, I'd be in the highest tax bracket, and then I'd be able to get tested for coronavirus." And at Antia Abstract tweeted, "I'll have what she's having for delivery, and please leave it at my doorstep. Thank you so much." Little When Harry Met Sally reference there. At Pandora's Paxa1 tweeted with a picture of Kylo Ren, "You won't find a guy with a better respirator mask than me." And at AndStuffL tweeted, "I'm just a girl standing 6 feet away from a boy, asking him to maybe move back another foot. Thanks." Reference to Notting Hill. Before we get into all of the news of the day, and to tell you the truth, I have read so many articles today and listened to so many news stories and researched so many facts and details that I did enough for 3 nights worth of shows. So I'm just going to go until we think we're all done. I don't think I'm going to get through everything that I put in my notes today. I frequently watch The Young Turks, and they often talk about stories that don't make it into the show. And now I understand exactly what they're talking about. Interestingly enough, The Young Turks are now broadcasting from home, and they're only doing 1 hour a day instead of 2 hours a day. So that's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see a lot of the independent media. Rising on the Hill TV is broadcasting from their homes. Useful Idiots from Rolling Stone, they're podcasting from home. Katie Halper and Matt Taibbi. I need to smoke a lot tonight because, to tell you the truth, reading these articles today was unnerving. was terrifying and infuriating all at the same time. Equally parts terrifying and infuriating. So, coronavirus case updates. We have over 246,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus worldwide, which is up 12% from yesterday. 10,100 deaths worldwide, which is up 13% from yesterday. Europe is over 101,800 cases, which is up 18% from yesterday. And they're at 4,827 deaths, which is up 17% from yesterday. But the good news is that we here in the US, we're the best. We're number one. So, of course, we have the highest percentage increase, which has more to do with tests somewhat slowly trickling out and becoming available. A lot of people in this country have it and don't know it. In the United States, we have 13,925 cases, which is up 57% from this time last night. And we have 194 deaths in the United States, which is up 42% from this time last night. A little while ago, Eric Garcetti and the mayor of Long Beach and the mayor of Pasadena and one of the board of supervisors for LA County held a press conference for what they're calling Safer at Home, which is basically our orders to stay at home, except for essential reasons to leave. And that applies in LA City and LA County, Pasadena, Long Beach. And then shortly after that press conference, Gavin Newsom announced a stay-at-home order for the entire state of California. This is a good thing because we have the third highest number of cases in California after New York and Washington. And it's going to get worse. So doing this now is essential. On a normal day, California gets 2,000 unemployment forms sent in. On Tuesday, they got 80,000 forms. They've estimated that as many as 18% of California workers have already lost their jobs. Mnuchin and the Treasury Department have predicted 20% unemployment in the United States. I believe they are off. I believe that number is low. Our highest unemployment ever was 24.9% in 1933. And the highest unemployment rate we had in the Great Recession was 10%. So what we know is that this is much more serious than the Great Recession. Why do I say that Mnuchin is wrong with his 20% figure? Because when you look at all of the different businesses that are shutting down, all the retail stores, a lot of the restaurants, all the hotels, the cruise lines, the airline industry, theaters, Broadway, events, concerts, and all of the industries that support those industries, all shutting down for an indefinite amount of time. There was one story in the paper about an AV engineer who had lined up 25 gigs a month for the next 4 months and had them all canceled. Unemployed. A good friend of mine owns a restaurant, well, four or five restaurants by the same name in the Los Angeles area, and 3 in Japan that I haven't heard anything about. And he had to close his doors, and he had to furlough 300 employees. They pride themselves on fresh food, so they have no freezers in his restaurants. So when he furloughed his 300 employees, he told them to take whatever they can, and he gave them all of the food. That was all he had to offer them. He spent the last 15 years building that business, and I remember going there during the Great Recession for lunch, and it was the only restaurant in West Hollywood. It was one of the only restaurants that was jam-packed every day, even in the middle of the Great Recession. And he went from 1 restaurant to 2 restaurants to 3 restaurants, and then some investors from Japan came over, and they wanted to open restaurants in Japan. So it's rough, and it's going to get rougher. Gavin Newsom announced that he has requested federal aid for California to respond to the coronavirus, including $1 billion in federal funding, and a request to immediately send the U.S. naval ship Mercy, which is a hospital ship, to Los Angeles to supplement the number of hospital beds available for coronavirus patients in the Los Angeles area. In a letter sent Wednesday to President Donald Trump, Newsom requested that the ship be stationed here through September 1st. The goal to add additional capacity to the healthcare system in the Los Angeles region. He also noted that the state projects that 56% of California's population, 25.5 million people, will be infected with COVID-19 over an 8-week period. That is fucking scary. The $1 billion in additional funding is to help purchase personal protective equipment, ventilators, tents for additional medical capacity, cots, and other sheltering supplies, according to the letter, and we will get around to what Trump thinks of states procuring medical gear in a few minutes. The federal funding will also be used to create additional healthcare facilities once existing capacity is exhausted, including activating state-run hospitals and deploying mobile hospitals, according to his letter to Congress. His request includes funding for counties, hospitals, and health systems, as well as for testing and treatment of the uninsured. The governor also requested help with economic relief for individuals and businesses, as well as help for schools and universities. See, here's the situation. Everything and everyone is fucked right now. The U.S. State Department issued a level 4 travel advisory, do not travel. That is the highest level travel advisory the State Department has. And it's usually reserved for war. So that's what it is. DePaul journalism student Christopher Silber tweeted today, yesterday, Illinois held elections. I'm sorry, tweeted this yesterday. The Lincoln Park Library on Fullerton was an important voting site. Today, DePaul sent an email that a faculty member who works at that building has tested positive for COVID-19, and the building has been closed for cleaning. Exactly what we were talking about. The elections put people's lives in danger. That's just what we were talking about the other night. It's just one example. Something tells me that Arizona, Illinois, and Florida are going to have problems. Especially Florida, where Ron DeSantis, the idiot MAGA chud governor, said he would not close the state beaches, even though spring break students continue to party there like it's a normal spring break. So, I did something today so that you wouldn't have to, which is I watched the Trump news conference. And Donald Trump looks like he's in physical pain from actually having to do the work of being president. He really looks put out by it. He's still insisting on calling it the Chinese virus. He keeps babbling about how strong our economy was 3 weeks ago and how it'll shoot straight up when this is over. The myth of the V curve, which is a wonderful oxymoron, a V curve. It's not a curve, it's a V. Even though there's zero historical precedent. First of all, there's no historical precedent for this situation. And second of all, there's no historical precedent for coming out of a recession or, God help us, a depression, and it's a V curve. It just doesn't work that way. He abdicated the federal responsibility to help states supply themselves during a global crisis. Quote, the federal government's not supposed to be out there buying vast amount of items and shipping, Mr. Trump said. You know, we're not a shipping clerk. Can you imagine if Congress had said that to George Washington in the middle of the American Revolution? I mean, really. Dear Congress, we need more cannons and horses. Dear General Washington, what do we look like, a shipping clerk? Oh my God. He said, we're looking at things to make people better. It was not reassuring. They talked about some drugs, and it was all very vague. Chloroquine is the drug that was the drug that they were talking about the most, or hydrochloroquine. It's a drug that's used for arthritis and malaria. And they think it might work, but I don't think the WHO agrees with them on that. The WHO is saying that remdesivir, remdesivir is the only drug that works in treating COVID-19. They also were at pains to state 50% of the cases are in 10 counties. And it was like, don't worry, half the cases are in 10 counties. Yes, but half of the cases are in the rest of the counties. And there are certain states, like Texas, that are not doing anything, like Florida, that are not really doing anything. They're in for a painful awakening. He said something about private companies like 3M starting to ramp up productions of N95 masks, which we have really, I mean, we talked about this last week, that we need 300 million and our emergency stockpile is 13 million. Article in the Times tonight about hospitals and healthcare outfits all over the country that do not have the gear, or they have a week's worth of supplies and they can't order anymore. And it turns out they said they were going to invoke the Defense Production Act, but they're not actually doing what it entails and taking over factories to turn them into manufacturers of the supplies that we need. They're not actually doing that. And yet at the same time, they talked about, they talked about the bailout money that's going to companies, like $50 billion in bailout money going to the $60 billion airline industry. And Trump said he supports the government taking an equity stake in some of the companies getting bailouts, which is fascinating because when Barack Obama wanted to get an equity stake in the auto companies, he was accused of being a communist, trying to nationalize American industry. But here now our Republican president is saying we're going to nationalize industry. And then there was this completely ridiculous conversation about left-wing media lining up with Chinese communist propaganda, Islamists, and Latin gangs. And what are you going to do about it? And why are these journalists still allowed in the White House? I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, it was obviously a shill from one of the Daily Caller or one of those right-wing outfits, OANN or something like. It was probably OANN. And, and she, God. I won't say what I think of the reporter because I'll sound sexist. Not that I'm going to use a sexist word about her, but I just don't think I should call women dumb. But this reporter was dumb. Yeah. So the press conference was a mess. It was all Trump boasting and talking about the Chinese virus and saying it's not racist to call it the Chinese virus. And he keeps getting asked over and over and over again, that's racist. Why do you keep saying it? And he keeps saying, no, it's not racist. Oh, God, I'm tired of listening to it. So, Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe on MSNBC this morning, he made a point that I thought was a damn good point. He said the American economy is a $21 trillion economy. And we're talking about putting that entire $21 trillion economy on hold for 6 months. And the president wants a $1 trillion bailout package. And I think the math is quite simple. If you're going to lose half of $21 trillion, $1 trillion is not going to really be substantial at all. Not going to help at all. It's going to have to be much, much more money than that. Our government is going to need to do $5 to $10 trillion in bailouts eventually, minimum. Especially if Mnuchin is right about 20% unemployment, which, like I said, I think is a very low estimate. I'm going to break a record on that one. So what is Mnuchin proposing? A one-time payment of $1,000 per adult, $500 per child, then another payment in 4 to 6 weeks if the emergency is still in place. It seems like the Republicans got the memo about UBI, but that they didn't get the meaning, that they didn't understand. Because that's not enough. For all these people who've lost their jobs, that's not enough. What if you're single and you're this AV engineer for Coachella and a bunch of music festivals, and you live paycheck to paycheck, and now you've got nothing? $1,000 twice, if you're lucky, $2,000. It's not going to get you through the next 6 months. It's not going to happen. So I made a video this morning which did not get many clicks or views, but that's life, where I talked about the fact that Republicans are talking about cash payments directly to Americans, and the Democrats are not. And the Democrats are being outflanked to the left by the Republicans, and they cannot do that. They cannot allow that to happen. And that is what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are doing right now. Pelosi shot down cash payments. Schumer shot them down. But the House Progressive Caucus is in the House. The Progressive Caucus laid out its list of asks for the upcoming stimulus. Monthly $2,000 cash payments and an additional $1,000 for families with children. Expanded sick leave. No bailout money for buybacks or executive compensation. And a pause on foreclosure and eviction. Now, assuming their expanded sick leave is a sort of a universal sick leave, and assuming that we also get a universal unemployment of some sort, now we're starting to approach a holistic enough approach to get the American people through this. Did I already mention my daily fail? Ron DeSantis refusing to close the beaches in Florida? I think I already mentioned that. I'm sure you heard about this story already. I hope you're not too tired, because I have a couple things I want to get through here. Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Richard Burr, Republican of North Carolina, was secretly recorded 3 weeks ago speaking to a small group of constituents. This was reported today by NPR. It was 15 days before the travel ban, and Burr was urging the people in the room not to travel, not to have the people in their companies travel. He warned them the military would be called out to build field hospitals, that the transmission rate on this virus is unlike anything we've seen since the Spanish flu. He warned that schools would be closed. warned that the virus was like the 1918 influenza. He completely contradicted Trump. It was the same day that Trump said the coronavirus will just disappear magically when it gets warm in April. And that's what the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee was saying to influential people behind closed doors. He then sold 1.7 million in stocks a week before the stock market started to go south. People across the political spectrum, from Tucker Carlson to AOC, have called for his immediate resignation and prosecution for insider trading. And I agree with them 100%. He should immediately resign. Immediately. It is a gross betrayal of the public trust for a man of his position and authority and responsibility to remain silent to the public while speaking privately to elites. It is reprehensible. If he knew that, and of course, as the head of the Intelligence Committee, he gets intelligence briefings, so they're talking about this in their intelligence briefings. He knew, and he didn't tell the public. And that's got to go right up there with Donald Trump saying no to buying more masks, or more tests, excuse me, saying no to the WHO test. So I got to read you a little bit here. I hope you'll hang with me here on this. We're almost done. The Intercept. Li Feng had an article in The Intercept. Banks pressure healthcare firms to raise prices on critical drugs, medical supplies for coronavirus. Quote, in recent weeks, investment bankers have pressed healthcare companies on the front lines of fighting the novel coronavirus, including drug firms developing experimental treatments and medical supply firms, to consider ways that they can profit from the crisis. The Intercept posted recordings from recent healthcare conferences. Investors have pushed Gilead Sciences, who has the patent on remdesivir, to make a business model of selling the drug, which is the only drug showing efficacy in fighting COVID-19. So their investors are telling them to raise the prices. Stephen Valiquette, a managing director at Barclays Investment Bank, last week peppered executives from Cardinal Health, a major healthcare distributor of N95 masks, ventilators, and pharmaceuticals, on whether the company would raise prices on a range of supplies. And again, this is the investor calling and saying, hey, we think it would be a good idea if you did this. And remember, we're your investors. Owens & Minor, a healthcare logistics company that sources and manufactures surgical gowns, N95 masks, and other medical equipment, presented at the Barclays Global Healthcare Conference the following day. Valiquette, again, citing the COVID-19 crisis, asked the company whether it could increase prices on some of the products where there's greater demand. I do want to note there was one executive who got these kinds of questions posed to her and was unequivocal in rejecting the notion that they would raise prices in any way. If anything, they would do the opposite. So good on her. But this is capitalism, baby. The public good be damned. This is capitalism. It's the bottom line. That's the only thing that matters. And, Bernie Sanders has recommended a committee that oversees price gouging and roots it out and holds firms accountable for it. I think it's an essential idea. that we need to have. So after that Intercept article, I've got one more article and a little bit more to read to you. Sludge, which is an excellent online outlet that reports on corruption, had an article, I believe it was yesterday, titled "Biden Sides with Big Pharma Against Plan That Could Make Coronavirus Vaccine Affordable." I'm going to read from the article some excerpts here. The pharmaceutical lobby scored a major win earlier this month when it stopped House Democrats from adding language to the emergency coronavirus funding bill that would have pressured drug companies to make coronavirus vaccines affordable. Instead, the industry secured language in the bill that prevents the government from taking any action to address vaccine prices that could delay their development. There are, however, existing executive powers that could be used to keep coronavirus vaccine prices low. In 1980, when Congress passed the Bayh-Dole Act, establishing procedures for private companies to patent inventions built upon government-funded research, it created a safety valve allowing the government to break such patents when companies fail to satisfy the health and safety needs of consumers. The authority, known as march-in rights, lets the government seize patents in these cases and license the rights to responsible third parties. The authority could likely be used for vaccines like the one currently being developed by Moderna in partnership with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the NIAID. Sanders, Warren, Harris, and Buttigieg all supported using the march-in rights, either in interviews or in their healthcare plans on their websites. Joe Biden does not support it in his plans on his website. When The Hill was reporting about this, and when Sludge was reporting about this, they both asked the campaign what their position was on march-in rights, and they refused to comment. The pharmaceutical industry has given Biden far more campaign money than anyone else who has run for president this cycle, including President Trump. Joe Biden's campaign and the outside groups backing him have taken over $1.34 million from the pharmaceuticals and health products industry, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. That's about twice what Trump has taken from that industry. The Biden campaign's ties to the drug industry go much deeper than the contributions it has received. His campaign chairman and top aide, Steve Ricchetti, is a longtime healthcare lobbyist who has personally represented drug makers Novartis, Pfizer, Eli Lilly, and Sanofi on issues related to pricing and patents, among other matters. The pro-Biden super PAC Unite the Country, which has spent over $11.8 million supporting Biden so far, is led by multiple individuals with ties to the pharmaceutical industry. Among its leaders is longtime Biden friend Larry Raske, the founder, chairman, and CEO of Raske Partners, a lobbying firm whose pharmaceutical clients have included Eli Lilly. Another member of the Super PAC's professional team, Amanda Loveday, is an associate director of NP Strategy, a public relations shop launched by corporate law firm Nexen Pruitt, which has clients in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industries. Unite the Country board member Mark Riddle has previously served on the board of a centrist think tank, the New Democrat Network, that received funding from the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, the drug industry's top lobbying group. Last month, House Democrats pushed to have march-in rights for coronavirus treatments codified in the emergency funding bill. That effort was abandoned due to opposition from the Trump administration and Senate Republicans. I think those two articles together paint a very stark picture of what we're up against, how this political system is rigged by the people who make the donations. You know, for Joe Biden not to support March-in rights, to essentially allow the pharmaceutical industry to price a vaccine however it likes, is reprehensible. So, I thought I'd try something a little bit different tonight to sign off. I don't know, maybe I'll do this again, maybe not, we'll see. There was a great interview of Roger Waters in the Austin Chronicle. He was due to give the keynote speech at South by Southwest. And anyway, the interview was all about human rights and Palestine and Israel. And BDS, Boycott, Divest, and Sanction. Anyway, it was a good article, and Roger Waters is a personal hero of mine. So I'm going to leave you tonight with these lyrics by Roger Waters from the song Deja Vu on the album Is This What We Really Want? Picture yourself as you lean on the port rail, tossing away your last cigarette. Picture your finger pushing the doorbell. Picture the skull and crossbones on the doormat. Picture yourself on the streets of Laredo. Picture the Casbah. Picture Japan. Picture your kid with his hand on the trigger. Picture prosthetics in Afghanistan. Picture a courthouse with no fucking laws. Picture a cat house with no fucking whores. Picture a shithouse with no fucking drains. Picture a leader with no fucking brains. 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 Follow me filming myself at the show on a phone from a seat in the very front row. Follow Miss Universe catching some rays. Wish you were here in Guantanamo Bay. Picture a seat on a private plane. Picture your feet nailed to the floor. Picture a crew who are clearly insane. Picture no windows. Picture no doors. Glued to a screen in the state of Nevada. To follow the dream gets harder and harder. Picture her wrapping a gift for the wedding. Picture her boiling water for tea. Picture the kids climbing into the back seat. Picture my hand turning the key. Oh, picture that. Picture the dog in the pickup ahead. Picture the tree at the side of the road. Picture my hands growing steadily colder, 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 colder. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm the Hetz. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Good night.